Hey, what's up guys? So today we got some pretty exciting news from Blizzard that patch 1.07 is scheduled to release tomorrow in all regions. So that's pretty awesome. You can see that there up in the top corner. I'll just roll some gameplay here and show you guys a couple things as we talk in this video. So as well as the patch coming out tomorrow, which is February 12th, 2013, there is going to be, well, there's not going to be, there already is, the Ask the Devs. They had answered a bunch of questions people asked a couple weeks ago. That's finally out. Some of you might have heard about that. So I'm going to go over a couple of my favored kind of the more important things that I found in it. It is a big long read. I'll put the link in the description to it, but you know, there's some good information, some not so interesting information. So if you want to take a look at it, you can look at it yourself, or you can just look at a few kind of things that I pulled out of it that I thought was good. In addition to that, they were also talking about hardcore rollbacks. So in the recent months, they noticed that players who lost hardcore characters through normal gameplay uh, they took action saying their account was compromised, and then they get a rollback on their account, restoring their hardcore player. They now said that they're no longer going to do that, which is really good in my opinion. I think if you're making a hardcore character, even if you're dying to your account getting hacked, just dying in a stupid way or dying to lag or anything like that, it's part of the risk of making a hardcore character, and you should know that when you make a hardcore character. And it's not really up to Blizzard to keep your account secure. That's kind of something you gotta do. You gotta make sure your account is secure. And if you get hacked and your character gets killed off, that's kind of your own fault. That's just my thought on it. So I'm kind of happy that there'll no longer be any hardcore rollbacks. Addition to that, they're talking about they changed. They used to call PvP dueling, you know, they added the new dueling system. Well, they changed that to brawling, so it's now called brawling. So a couple of these posts or questions being answered here that I'm going to show on the screen, they'll be referring to brawling. By what they mean to that is the dueling system they added in patch 1.07, in case you're wondering. So the first thing that I found in the Ask the Devs, what was kind of important, well, not really important, I just thought it was cool. They were talking about rewards for the PvP system, and they talked about adding ears to collect. This is the exact system that was back in Diablo 2. You killed a player, their ear dropped. If you wanted, you could pick up their ear, keep them all in your stash, and kind of use it as a trophy to show all your friends who you killed. It had their name on there, the level they were killed at, and that sort of thing. So that was pretty cool. I like to do that, and it was a really big thing on hardcore because you could brag all you want that you killed somebody on hardcore, but unless you had your ear, nobody really believed you that you killed them. You know, screenshot or it didn't happen, or ear if it didn't happen. So, you know, that's pretty cool there. The next thing I thought that was kind of interesting is they go on to say that Diablo is a PVE focus game, so that's kind of a reason why Team Deathmatch was delayed. It was a big stark contrast in between PvE and PvP and making that right. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Not much more to talk about that. The next thing I noticed in there that I thought was kind of interesting is before PvP came out, a lot of people were talking about the betting system, or a proposed betting system where you would make a bet on the duel and then go in there and duel it, just to make the game a little bit more exciting. When it comes to dueling, you could wager, you know, 1,000,000 gold, and then whoever wins gets 1,000,000 gold. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, but they did say that they don't really want to add that, and it's not really going to happen. They have no future plans to add that, so it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I thought it was a cool system, but it doesn't look like it. The next kind of thing I thought was really cool, I'm not sure why they haven't added this in the game, but they're talking about kind of having a queue system or game tags, so you could identify a game as a PvP game just to make PvP more social. Now this is kind of something you could do back in Diablo 2. You could make a game, title it whatever you want. If people wanted to join it, they could join it based on the name. Like you'd have a game called Trading Post or Duels and that sort of thing, and based on that people would join your game. Or it could be like Trading Soj for I don't know, like Burr Ruin or something like that. It doesn't really matter the example, just the point of game tags. So they've talked about maybe adding that into Diablo 3. I think that would be a good step in the right direction, but they have no ETA on that as of right now. The next thing to talk about is account bound crafting and why they made crafting account bound. So they talk about making account bound crafting because they wanted to give players an option instead of using the auction house for everything. Now, I kind of have mixed feelings about account bound crafting. I think it's kind of cool, and I don't mind the auction house too much, but ideally what I'd like to see in the game is them to completely remove the auction house from the hardcore. So the people who don't mind using auction house and don't mind that sort of thing, they can use the auction house, they can play on softcore, and the really hardcore players who really want that Diablo 2 experience, they want to be able to do the barter system and that sort of thing, they can play on hardcore, and I think that's what the majority of hardcore players want. Maybe it's just me speaking for myself, but that's my opinion on that. So yeah, that's kind of why they made the account bound crafting, account bound rather. They wanted to kind of give players a different option than the auction house, but I don't know about that. I don't know how good of an excuse that is to make stuff account bound. I don't know. I don't really like the account bound. I kind of like it in some ways, kind of like it and don't. Mixed reviews on it, in my opinion, but yeah, that's kind of it for that. The next thing to talk about that I thought was interesting, because it's been a big topic for a while, or not a big topic, but kind of topic that's been going around Diablo 3 for a while, is the Topaz and the Topaz and weapons. So if you don't know, the Topaz and weapons gives thorns damage, and it's like 2,000 thorns damage, which is a really low amount. You know, I don't know why you'd ever put a topaz in your weapon, but they talked about improving the topaz, so instead of just giving a base amount of thorns damage, it would actually scale off your intelligence or your strength or your dexterity, which would make thorns a lot better. And they might implement this into the game, but they don't have a specific timeline into when they'll make this change. So that's kind of interesting. So there's a lot of different kind of stuff in this question and answer, ask the dev sort of thing, and it was all based around 1.07. And this top comment here that was like the second comment on the page, he goes to say that this Q&A was specified for 1.07, but it's all kind of pretty meaningless info, and I somewhat agree with that. And I definitely agree with, until the developers acknowledge the real core fundamental problems with this game, itemization, no character customization, no randomness in the world, and like no ladder system, based on my opinion, it's kind of a little bit of a wasted effort. So yeah, you know, I kind of agree with that. I really hope they make a lot of changes to the game still, make some really major overhauls of the things they need to do to make the game really solid. After playing Path of Exile for a few weeks here, I noticed there's a lot of things that Blizzard could have done to make the game a lot better, such as a ladder system and that sort of thing, that Path of Exile did do right, but I don't want to get into the argument of Path of Exile is better. Both games do different things, and some do, like Diablo does things better, Path of Exile things does better, and they're both in different ways. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. I'm definitely going to keep playing both games. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Patch 1.07 is coming out tomorrow. Unfortunately, I won't get a chance to play it. I am going to Vegas in a couple days, so if I don't have a chance to make another video before I go, I will see you guys when I get back. I'll be back about a week from now, so I'm going to have some fun in Vegas. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be my first time going, so we're going to have some fun with that. Anyway, going to stop rambling on here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.